Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here from the Back to 12 podcast. And in today's video, we'll discuss the way too early Big 12 men's basketball projections from John Rothstein. And we'll also look at a way too early bracketology from ESPN and Joe Lunardi. Now, I know what you're thinking. RC, it's July. How do we know what Texas Tech is going to be? We don't. It's way too early, but the roster is now set when it comes to scholarship players. And I think it's interesting to look at what some of these national pundits think of the Red Raiders and the roster currently as it stands. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the Back to 12 podcast channel as we're giving you daily Texas Tech videos, whether that's football, men's basketball, or anything in between. We've got you covered right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel. But before we jump into these projections from John Rothstein and Joe Lunardi, I got to ask you one question. As of today, do you think Texas Tech men's basketball will make the NCAA tournament next season? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know down in the comments below. All right, let's jump into this as John Rothstein has a very interesting column that he puts out. And again, it's just his opinion on this stuff, but unlike others, I like John Rothstein. I think he's actually a really solid guy when it comes to college basketball and the knowledge of the game. Especially at this time of the year where he's got access that a lot of other people don't when it comes to actually potentially properly ranking teams before the season starts, right? So he has this Rothstein 45, and Texas Tech comes in at number 39 right now after recently signing West Virginia guard transfer Joe Toussaint. When you look at other Big 12 teams ahead of the Red Raiders, it goes as follow in order. Kansas number 1, Houston 12, Texas 17, Baylor 22, TCU 31, 34 is the Kansas State Wildcats, then come the Red Raiders, and then Iowa State at 41. There are 8 Big 12 teams in his top 45 as it stands right now. And as it stands, again, Texas Tech is currently 7th in the Big 12. I don't have a problem with this, and if I'm being truly honest, I might even switch Iowa State and Texas Tech, but I feel like this is the right spot in terms of where Iowa State and Texas Tech should be in that 39 to 42 range, right? This is where those two teams need to be. That being said, there's something to be said about what happened with this roster late in the process. When you add 2 potentially impactful guys in the portal, late stages in Joe Toussaint and Devin Cambridge, right? Those are 2 starters, in my opinion, or guys that are going to play significant roles on this team next year for the Red Raiders. If you look at the past of this Rothstein 45, Texas Tech was not in it. Now, you go add guys like Devin Cambridge and Joe Toussaint that are going to have impacts on this team, not me projecting that, but others around the country as well. Now they're in it. And again, I know there's going to be some people out there, RC, why does it matter? Why does it matter that Texas Tech is in this way too early projections from Rothstein or Joe Lunardi? Truthfully, it may not, but it is good to see Texas Tech is in the national conversation still, and that's a big deal, especially after what they've gone through last season, right? There are some programs that fall off hard and have to claw their way back into national relevancy. It seems like Texas Tech is still there, and that's a big deal considering this is year 1 of Grant McCasland and the job that he's done and the staff and the transfer portal, right? I'll be honest, I was critical of what was going on early in the transfer portal for Grant McCasland and crew. But the job that this crew did late in the process, again, to add 2 impact guys and 2 guys that I think are going to be starters for you in Devin Cambridge and Joe Toussaint. And now you have, instead of 2 guys that have been productive at the Power 6 level, you have 4. That's a monumental step forward for Texas Tech. And now you're starting to see that in some of these national pundits and what they are saying about Texas Tech. All right, before we get into the way too early bracketology, I want to ask you guys this, just an early prediction. Early prediction. Don't hear what I'm not saying. This is an early prediction. Where will Texas Tech men's basketball finish in the Big 12 next season? Again, just let me know. Just give me a number. You think they're going to finish 8th? You think they're going to finish 4th? Let me know, where will Texas Tech men's basketball finish in the Big 12 next season. All right, let's jump into the latest bracketology, and it's way too early, but the Red Raiders are now involved in this one as Joe Lunardi has Texas Tech as the last team in the NCAA tournament for next year. Why is this interesting? He has 9 Big 12 tournament teams, right? More than any other conference. So again, I think this year it's going to be a little closer when it comes to the Big 12 and the Big East. I think it's going to be maybe a 1A, 1B type situation when it comes to best conference in America. If you ask me to put some money on it, I'm obviously picking the Big 12 just from a historical perspective these past 10 years. But I think it's going to be closer than people think. So again, Big 12 gets more teams than anybody right now, according to Joe Lunardi. And he has Texas Tech as the last team in the field of 68. Okay, the last team in. West Virginia is also one of those last 4 teams in, but Texas Tech is the last team in, right? And that means he has Texas Tech playing in a play-in game. It would be against Providence and Dayton. Now, personally, I don't think this is an unfair spot for Texas Tech. And I know that there will be some people that say, RC, again, this is way too early. What does it matter? Again, national relevancy, like it or not, is a big deal when it comes to eyeballs seeing your program. This is the difference between you playing on potentially ESPN, ESPN2, or the difference between you playing on ESPN Plus, right? And nobody likes to play on ESPN Plus. Trust me, we don't like that right now. But I do think that there are some things that really bring into perspective here in terms of where Texas Tech is ranked, not only in the Rothstein 45 right now as it stands, but in bracketology as well. First and foremost, this gives some type of respect to Grant McCasland in year number 1 and the job that they think he can do at Texas Tech. That's a big deal, right? It also shows that this roster has gotten better because of the likes of what Grant McCasland and crew have done in the transfer portal. They did a solid job when it comes to high school recruiting, right? But overall, the biggest thing that Grant McCasland and crew did was the transfer portal. And they went out there, and this isn't me talking. This is multiple people that follow the transfer portal on a national level, what they're saying. Texas Tech has a top 5 transfer portal class, right? If you look at what they're bringing in, you go and get one of the most active bigs in the country in Warren Washington. You get his former teammate, now current teammate again, in Devin Cambridge. You get Joe Toussaint. You get arguably one of the best shooters in the portal in Chance McMillan, right? You get the Mountain West player, freshman of the year, and Darion Williams, right? You kept guys like Pop Isaacs, right? You kept a guy like Lamar Washington. You did a good job of that when it comes down to roster construction. And at some points, it looked kind of bleak. But you got to give credit to Grant McCasland and crew and what they did for this roster, right? And I think that that's what John Rothstein and Joe Lunardi are both doing right here. And again, they're giving you a ton of respect because they have you in the tournament after playing in the toughest conference in America. That's not up for debate when you look at what Joe Lunardi put on there. This is the toughest conference in America. So again, last team in according to Joe Lunardi, and number 39 when it comes to John Rothstein and his Rothstein 45. Again, I get it. It's way too early, but it is a great sign right now in terms of what Texas Tech has on this roster and how they are viewed nationally, right? Because again, you add Devin Cambridge and Joe Toussaint late in this process, and I really think that shores up a lot of things that you had in terms of weaknesses potentially on this roster with senior-laden guys that have proven it at the Power 6 level. All right, got to ask you one more time before we get out of here. As of today, I get it. It's an early prediction. Do you think Texas Tech men's basketball will make the NCAA tournament? It's that simple. Just a Y for yes or N for no. Again, as of today, do you think Texas Tech men's basketball will make the NCAA tournament? I am RC Maxfield reminding you, if you haven't already, be sure to like the video if you want more Texas Tech men's basketball content throughout the offseason and all year long, right here on your one-stop shop for everything Texas Tech men's basketball. Of course, talking about the Back to 12 podcast channel.